Good afternoon, everybody. How are we doing? Thank you for joining me today. I'm Alex Chisnall from the Festival of Enterprise, and I'm also the speaker today, talking about podcasting and how to make it part of your marketing strategy. So thanks everybody for the messages that you are posting up on the side there. Let me know you can hear me loud and clear. Just give me a thumbs up. I can see we've got Umesh, we've got Janine, Simon, Stephen, we've got Chris. Thanks for joining us. Chris from Solo Timber. You want to check out Chris's competition. Chris, post up your website again, because we had you on a webinar last week and you came up with a super cool competition for, remind me if it was just children or parents as well, but to design their dream home. And I believe the winner, the kids got some toys, vouchers at Amazon or something, and the winner was going to get drawings done by your team for their dream home. Let me know, remind me, post that up, Chris. Sorry, I'm diverging here, but I can see names that I've hosted during the course of the last month or so. So great to see some familiar faces and names on here. John Watkinson, Sarah Fairbairn, Steve, you made it in. Awesome. Simon, thanks for filling in my role and telling him, and Dale also joining us as well. Rhiannon, is this being recorded? Sorry, I've got to go. Yes, this is being recorded, Rhiannon, so you will hear me talking about you when you watch the replay. So the replay will come on here straight away as soon as this finishes, just before 1 o'clock, really. Then we'll host it on our website and put it over onto our new YouTube channel as well, so you can watch the replay there. And as you'll see from my slides, if you feel you've got any value from this, please share it, point people in the direction of this. Anybody who you think needs to see this, that will be massively appreciated. Lots of thumbs up. Brilliant. Marcus, Joy, all piling in as well. There's Chris. Yeah, honestly, go and check out his competition, everybody. He's posted the link up on here. There's a whole bunch of people on the webinar today. Soki's from Cardiff, my hometown. How are you doing? I'm coming live from Poole in Dorset today, which is looking very wet and windy. Been getting messages for a month now going, hi, it's John from sunny Basingstoke, or hi, it's Sarah from sunny Hartlepool, but that's definitely not the case today, I don't think. I like the fact that people post up their URLs by the name for their website. I think that's pretty cool. Lets people connect. As always, happy to connect with everybody on LinkedIn afterwards. I'm just at Alex Chisnall. Hi, Graham from Richmond, Vernon from Shropshire, Simon's up in Northamptonshire. Yeah, great minds indeed, Chris. You did a competition last week. I will check that out afterwards as well. So today, here to tell you all about podcasting and how to make it part of your marketing strategy. What this isn't going to be is going to be like an hours long me talking about the equipment that you're going to need for a podcast or any of the technicalities like that. You can get that anyway, literally from Googling YouTube or anything like that. But also, and I'll show you the link afterwards, I've got a free Facebook group I started up about 3 weeks ago now, completely free, to help people learn how to create, start, launch and grow a podcast for free, literally just using one of these or their laptop and the free software contained therein. And in the group, I've done putting together a PDF with all of the equipment that you need, literally from free equipment that's in your phone, from apps right through to middle of the range, entry level stuff, right through to that high end stuff that I now regret buying. Literally about a week before this lockdown, spent most I've ever spent on upgrading my equipment because my producer told me if I'm going to be doing webinars, telling people about podcasting, I need to up my game as well. So so I did that, recorded one interview, and then lockdown. So it's literally sat gathering dust. And this is a great leveler, everybody. Platforms such as this, Zoom, Crowdcast like this, WebEx, WebJam, loads of them out there, and it is a great leveler at the moment for technology because everybody is using the same equipment. And yes, I can show you that you can improve your sound by using a pair of headphones. If I was going to put this out on a podcast, that's what I would be doing, and also having a mic, which I've got plugged in here as well. So the headphones are literally just to make sure there aren't any other noises impacting the mic, but a mic both ends, if there was hosts, other guests on here as well, would improve it massively. So thank you all. Just getting started, warming up now. David, it's a bit grim up north. Good to see you, good to hear from you too. Joy's up in Kenilworth, and there's Simon's one as well. Don't regret it, Alex, embrace it. Jill from Coventry. Yeah, I know, it was just a fair amount of money that I've used once, and it will be used again. I know for a fact that I will be recording with people in person. But the interesting thing is, I was chatting to, again, power of this, somebody in New York yesterday that we're looking to do some work with, and they were saying that they are not going to be able to record in person until 2021. And I do wonder if that's the case here. I think we plan for the worst and expect the best. So, or whatever the phrase is, I've forgotten it. But, plan for the worst case scenario. If we're all going to be in the same boat now for the next, say, what's it going to be, 7 months, that we're all going to be recording podcasts virtually, then let's embrace it and do the best we can with it. And I'll show you now through the slides, but for the first 2 years of my own podcast, I did all my recordings virtually. So it's nothing new to me, and I am not a techie. I will get that out of the way straight away. I'm not a techie. So if I can learn how to create a podcast, anyone in here can as well. Or be expert presenters and give Piers Morgan a run for his money. Well, do you know what? Last one, and I'm going to digress literally very shortly, but just, hope everybody is safe and well. So I was hosting a webinar last night for a podcast called Not Just Crew, which is from an old friend of mine, Trevor Jenkins from Virgin Atlantic, cabin crew. And his podcast is all about what other cabin crew do as other jobs or have moved into. And we ended up interviewing an old friend of ours called Matt Dockeray, and he made Piers Morgan, Sky News, Lad Bible, all forms of media known to man or beast, because he had COVID-19 really, really badly. He was on a ventilator. He's from Marlow in Buckinghamshire. And it was a really serious webinar, but because we were all friends, hadn't seen each other for like 10 years or so, it was pretty good banter as well, and we tried to inject a bit of humor into it. But he said there was 8 people in his ward, and him and somebody else, there was only 2 of them walked out of that ward alive. So for those of you who this might not have touched yet, and we're in a bubble, aren't we? We're watching the news and what people want us to see and hear, and we're looking on social media, which is further underlining what we want to see and hear again. The stories of Facebook taking people's posts off, and all kinds of. I've had friends have had stuff taken off by Facebook. Really interesting. I won't go into that, but so anybody interested in that, that was a real eye opener for me to hear it literally from somebody who's had it, and how real it was and how it's impacted him and his family. So thank you for joining us, Rose from Birmingham as well. So guys, I'm going to switch over to my slides now. Let me know if the only thing I don't like about this particular platform is once you switch to slide mode, I cannot see anything at all other than my own slides. So I've got my phone to try and have a look, but can you post up and just let me know? I know Umesh will on there. Anyone else, just let me know, and Simon, that you can see the slides. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so I'm going to focus the screen for you. I'm going to go into, let's do that. Let's focus the screen. And you're going to see the stuff on the left-hand side, but I'm going to divert that. So you got little old me in the bottom left-hand corner, which again is a little bit too small for my liking on the technicality front here, but it is what it is. So all spot on. Thanks, Simon. Okay, so I'm now going to switch to play from the current slides. Okay. So I've got the chat on here. Let me know that you can still see all those slides, guys. All good. Yeah, even better now. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, David, and everybody else who joined that there. Okay, so talking about podcasting, how to make it part of your marketing strategy with my good self, Alex Chisnall. As I said, please do share this if you're watching this afterwards on the replay, or when you come off this. and you can post someone in this direction who needs to see this. So that's me, Alex Chisnall, Podpreneur. That is the name of my podcast agency. So I've come from a circuitous route in that I started BBC Radio Wales in Cardiff some 20, I'll stop there, plus years ago, interviewing the likes of Lennox Lewis, former heavyweight champion of the year, of the world, through to Neil Kinnock, who was leader of the opposition party at the time. So that shows you my age. But I've come from there, from the BBC, on a very circuitous route to find myself still in the audio space, but now it's called something different. It's called podcast. And I love it. And this guy, who knows who this guy is? Let me know. Anybody recognize who this chap is? Yes, he's American. He has the #1 most popular show, Rogan. Exactly, Chris. Joe Rogan. Love the name. Thank you, Simon. Joe Rogan. Yeah, Big Joe. He is a unit, isn't he? And that are a lot of the dollars that he is making. So I'm going to start off with some figures. Can you believe this? So $30 million. That's what Joe Rogan earns from his podcasts. That's how many downloads his podcasts get. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. I mean, this is the power of podcasting for me. This is why I love it so much, because people are only just discovering what podcasts are about now. And I'll show you some statistics later on that will show the different demographics. So we had some questions last week when I ran this about somebody had a business for events that targeted 50-year-olds, and I said, should I be having a podcast? And I said, that's the fastest growing group at the moment, as they're sat at home discovering new technology. The likes of my mother, who's coming up to 80, saying she's literally spent this time learning new technology, learning Zoom, learning all about podcasts, learning about FaceTime, learning about all sorts of things. And this is what people are doing. The biggest demographic I'll show you later is Generation Z, which is 18 to 28-year-olds. That is the biggest demographic for podcasting. But now more and more people are finding out about it. So, going back to Joe there, boom, $30 million. That's his income, and I know he has other irons in the fire through his comedy game as well. So, $30 million. Anyone get by on that? I'd imagine so. And 190 million downloads, unbelievable reach from podcasts. Compare and contrast this to Scott Stockdale. So who is Scott Stockdale and his Entrepreneurs Come Party podcast? So Scott launched his podcast about a month ago. He's one of my students who's come through my course, and Scott didn't have an email list. He's got about 700 followers on Instagram, less than 500 on LinkedIn, didn't have a Facebook account. He is, Generation Z, so Facebook, they're not looking to utilize Facebook. They're looking at Instagram, looking at LinkedIn, looking at TikTok, etc., to get their message across. But within 6 days, that happened. Number 10 in the chart. Look at number 4, there's Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. A lot of you may know Stephen's podcast. Anyone listen to that podcast? Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett. I was trying to get Stephen on for one of our webinars, actually. Co-founder of Social Chain. Also Holly Tucker there, hosted Holly. I've had Stephen Bartlett on my podcast. Holly Tucker, their Conversations of Inspiration, had Holly Tucker on my podcast as well. Rachel Hollis, that's a great podcast. Rise, Ed Mylett, massive powerhouse in the US, number 9. And Scott, boom, number 10, 6 days after launching. How can that happen? That is the beauty of podcasting for me, that because the way the algorithm works with podcasting, to get your podcast in the chart, which for me means more eyeballs looking at your podcast, which then converts into more listens and therefore more downloads, is that the algorithm is based on how many new subscribers every week you get, how many new downloads you get, how many new ratings and reviews you get for your show. So hence somebody like Scott, who's got no downloads, no subscribers, no ratings and reviews until he launched his podcast, that's how he can jump in and be alongside the likes of Holly Tucker, founder of Not on the High Street. Stephen Bartlett, they did an IPO of Social Chain last month. I think it's valued like 200 million after only, starting the business 4 or 5 years ago. And he's able to get in amongst these guys into the charts in the UK, get eyeballs on what he's doing, get people listening to his message and getting it across the world in different countries from day one, literally. And I'll talk to you more about that. So my podcast, Screw It, Just Do It, you can see on the left there. So we got that to #1 last year. That was my #1 goal, was to get a #1 podcast, so that I guess, why? Because people take me seriously, maybe. I'd had a bunch of #2s, and it was just getting that #1. Yes, maybe a bit of vanity in there as well, for sure. I'll take that on the chin. But for me, to be taken seriously and to talk to people like you guys on today, and get you believing in what I'm talking about, I needed to get that. So we did that. We made that a plan, the main goal. The podcast that got me there was interviewing Julian Hearn from Huel. Got me close was Dodge from Bournemouth Sevens. That got us to #2, and then we got on a bit of a roll. So podcast with Dodge got us to #2. Julian got us to #1. Then James Haskell, which was a connection through Dodge again, which was huge. And this was interesting. This shows you the power of influencer marketing, I suppose, to a certain degree. Podcast with James Haskell, former England rugby player, British Lion. Just now recently been on I'm a Celebrity, tail end of last year. We got that podcast to #2, and he shared it on his business profile on Instagram. And then I saw him doing a live through his personal channel. He was DJing at some party, and I sent him a text message, said, James, don't suppose there's any chances there, Hask, that you can just share this on your personal Instagram channel. He shared it, literally went like 90,000 impressions in about 2 hours, and we went to #1 that evening. Literally, boom, like that. That's how quickly things can happen. And it's all about, for me, interviewing people who have a super engaged following, who are going to share your message as well. So we managed to get our clients to the top of the charts as well. So Inspiring Leadership, that is Jonathan Bowman Perks, and he is the next webinar on today. I didn't set this up because I did the same slides last week, but Jonathan is going to be talking about Inspiring Leadership at 2 p.m. today. And his podcast, again, didn't even have an email list, didn't have an Instagram handle, Facebook. He just had people on LinkedIn that followed him, and he works with global leaders from big blue chip companies. That he's ex-military, and he's interviewing a lot of ex-military leaders. So we managed to get his podcast there within 90 days in 30, 40 countries. Top 10 podcast in like France, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, South Africa, Australia, you name it. Right across the board, which is only going to help Jonathan's business, which is coaching CEOs of different businesses. So we ended up then going on a bit of a roll, like I said, from that, and getting my podcast, Screw It, Just Do It, ranked #1 from the UK to Uganda. No, that is something I didn't ever set out to do, and downloaded in 140 plus countries worldwide. And the reason I'm showing you this, guys, is to show you the reach that podcasts give you is off the charts. Imagine how much it would have cost me 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, to get my message across 140 countries across the world. I would have had to take out advertising in newspapers, on radio shows, etc. But podcasting enables you to get your message across for free. literally for free. You can, yes, you can spend money in podcasting. You know, how long is a piece of string? That type of answer. But you can literally do it from nothing. And if you're a brand and you obviously want to improve the audio, the messaging, etc., then you're going to spend a few £1,000s on that. So yeah, Simon says, yeah, Roger says, awesome work for getting to #1, buddy. Absolutely, thank you very much. Simon, influencers are always a great way to get followers. Yeah, they are. It's interesting. I've got 2 theories on that. But Stephen says, I'm already interested in your class. Please tell me the first request. So they get the class for free. I put in my request now. So here we go. That was just to give you a brief selection. I just want to show you is, again, for me, it's getting niche of niche with your podcast, rather than trying to get like choosing business as your main category. Okay, that's what I would call a red ocean. It's really competitive. There are loads of people trying to get noticed in the business space. But if you just drop down one category into a sub niche, which would be entrepreneurship, which could be business news, which could be social business, which could be marketing, which could be management, all of those are sub niches, subcategories of business. And you are far more likely to get your podcast in the charts for that, and therefore get more eyeballs, more ears, more downloads on your show. So for me, we've worked with a whole bunch of people, from like an individual entrepreneur, so a personal brand, I would say, like Jonathan, right through to Melissa Snover, who was on this show a couple of weeks ago, CEO, founder of Nourished, who 3D print personalized vitamins. They're like a gummy, they're like a stack, like 7 vitamins like that in a stack. They've just done really well. They've just got a whole bunch of 7 figures worth of funding for their business. So they were launching in January this year. They want to tie in a podcast for the launch, to tie in with Veganuary, because they were making a vegan stack of vitamins for that, and getting lots of people to speak who are in the health and wellness space. So we made a podcast for their launch. So that one there. I had Lord Billamoria on, Cobra Beer founder, on, was it yesterday? Was it the day before? Can't remember now. I think it was 2 days ago. So this was my first Lord that I met, Lord Young. So I was there to film this one for them. So X-Forces Enterprise. So they are, they help military personnel transition into civilian life by launching their own business. And they wanted a podcast to tell the stories of the individuals who they'd helped leave the military and start up their own business. So they had so many amazing stories of people who have overcome so many things in life, from, you know, physical injuries like getting limbs blown off by landmines, through to people suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder. Always get the name wrong for that, the PD. So they wanted to tell those stories. Each individual story was an individual episode, which the CEO, founder, Ren Kapoor, MBE, there hosted as well. Right through to working with an American brand called, global brand called Net Profit Explosion, NPE. And their first interview, I think, was with Precision Nutrition's John Berardi, which literally he took that business from 0 to $200 million. And they are a coaching business in the US, coaching fitness professionals, and they were looking to get those people. So they had an interesting tactic, actually, and this is a good one for businesses that you could use. So it's all about, for me, for podcasting, it's all about where you take people. So where can you take them from listening to your podcast to somewhere else? Where's that somewhere else for you? Is it one of your social media platforms? Is it your website? Is it to come to a live event? So I've done that. Is it to read your book? You know, a whole bunch of different things that you can do, and I cover this in another webinar of like 12 different ways you can monetize your podcast. But these guys were great to work with. They had a decent sized team, which is kind of the sweet spot for me. If you've got like somebody who's head of your marketing, maybe you've got an assistant to head of marketing as well. So they were able to, for every single episode, they were driving people to their website, and each episode they would have an ebook which you could download on, and every single episode it was a different topic. So if you wanted to find out how to get more leads, for if you were a personal trainer, or if you wanted to learn how to convert through webinars, through online sales. I'm just making this up as I go along, but those are the kinds of things they were able to produce. They had a big enough team to produce things like that, and that was quite sticky to get people to go from your podcast to go to your website to download the ebook, to get them in the top of your funnel there, so that they're eventually over time, you're going to educate them about the benefits of your products and services, get them to fall in love with your brand. And over time, and it's like anything you try, I think marketing wise for the first time, whether it's starting a vlog, a blog, a podcast, influencer marketing, as Simon mentioned, whatever it might be, you play it for the long game. Okay, you don't just put one series of 6, 7, 8 episodes and then go, oh, where's all the clients? It's all about nurturing those clients. And yes, some people are going to be ready to buy from day one, but as you know, take 7, 8, 9, whatever the theory is. Again, someone will let me know on this webinar now, possibly, how many touch points there are before somebody's willing to buy from you. So that's what you want to do, in my humble opinion. And we've ended up doing bunch of different things with podcasts. So for me, great moment was Virgin Atlantic actually sponsoring my event. We did this up in Manchester. I had Piers Linney up there, ex-Dragon's Den investor, and we did some events which we recorded for the podcast. And they all featured people, brands that are on Virgin Atlantic. So it was Candy Kittens, Sweets, Change Please Coffee, even the scent. Somebody makes the scent for the aircraft that you can buy in the duty free, and candles and stuff. So we just did an event that featured all of a bunch of different suppliers, I guess, for Virgin Atlantic, and interviewed them for the podcast and positioned it that way. Lord Young is a lovely man. Yeah, he was 6 to 7 touch points. Thanks, Simon. Welcome Ed from Oxford as well. Thank you for joining us. And then Antler, global startup generator and VC. So that was over in Holland, creating a podcast for them. British American Business, which is the American Chamber of Commerce in the UK. So I do a quarterly event for them, which we again turn into a podcast as well. There's me and Piers Linney doing something for them up in Manchester. And then Festival of Enterprise. So that's how I came across these guys. Today, Wednesday, we should be at Olympia in London. We're not. We're bringing this online instead, but I created the podcast for them initially, and that was interviewing all of our best speakers, but just giving like 10 minutes of each one. So this was for an event. So for those of you interested in events, and yes, the time will come again, I am sure, and maybe it's a hybrid version of online and offline events. I think people are going to be craving contact, craving connection. But we're obviously guided by the government. But for me, it's like this. We were doing like 10-minute teaser episodes to get you to come to the event because you wanted to hear the whole talk from that speaker. So we were just doing little snapshots into each of our speakers there. And then consulted for different brands as well who needed help after they'd already launched their own podcast. The likes of Grenade and their Pull the Pin podcast as well. So help them with that and get that in the charts for them literally a week after consulting for that. So we then run a regular event, a month, annual event with the likes of Alan and Juliet Barrett from Grenade, Piers Linney, Camilla Ainsworth from The Apprentice, etc., Rowena Bird from Lush. I'm just whipping through these guys just to show you the kind of things you can do. We had Lord Billamoria on the other day on my podcast. That was going to be released today. And then Karina Lepore, who won The Apprentice, the last series as well. That's going to be going out in the next couple of weeks. So, through to the meat of it all, guys. And that's just to show you the kind of stuff that you can do with a podcast, okay? So how to market your business, starting your own podcast. So, and this isn't meant to traumatize you. This is to show you the opportunity that exists. So, and for me, you can clearly start a vlog. You could start a blog, you could start a pod. There are a bunch of different ways you can market your business. And for me, 100% you want to be looking at the different technology that's out there at the moment, such as we're bringing you today and embracing that. I really do think it's going to be, there's loads of people doing webinars like this. I saw Virgin Startup, who I used to be a delivery partner for, starting theirs up as well. And, you know, not everyone's going to be in this for the long haul. People are just doing this as a short-term thing, but, you know, we're going to do this for the long haul. I think the future lies in a bit of a hybrid version of real life events and then virtual events as well, connecting people through, you know, your podcast, your vlog, your blog, and then through social media, into bite-sized chunks of that to get people interested. So look, at the moment there are over 1 billion active YouTube users. That is a huge number. For me, unless you are an influencer with a sizable following or a well-known sports or music personality, I think it's a struggle to get heard on YouTube. That doesn't mean to say I don't think you should have a YouTube channel as part of your strategy. I do recommend that for pretty much everybody that I work with when it comes to podcasts. You know, I do recommend filming your podcast as well, either at the same time or doing it as a separate piece of content. As Chris Ducker, who I had on the other week, he said he reacts differently when he's on stage and when he's recording audio, and he wanted to record them separately. For me, I would, you know, try and use your time wisely, and maybe you do record yourself, and obviously doing something like this is automatically recorded, so you could be doing your podcast interview like this with somebody on the other side of the world, and it's recorded. You can then repurpose that. So for me, it's all about repurposing your content. So this is why I love podcasts. So you could record a podcast, you can video it, you can then so you put that out on your YouTube channel, put that out on your Instagram TV. You could even stream some of it live, like we're doing now, like I did last night with the COVID-19 guys. So you could stream it live into Facebook, stream it live into YouTube, stream it live into LinkedIn. There's a bunch of things you can do there, and then you can pull a transcription of the recording, and by that I mean you turn that into a blog. Then you get it literally transcribed, post that up as a blog on your website, maybe pull out a couple of excerpts, a couple of paragraphs from that transcription, and put it out as posts on LinkedIn. You know, so many things you could do to create content, but you could drive those people back to your website. And what they're going to do when they're on your website, they're going to see all your other products and services, read more about your story. You're going to keep them on your website for longer. So yes, while YouTube looks busy, it should still be part of your strategy. Likewise, blogs, 20 million active blogs out there at the moment. There's over 1 billion blogs which have been put out there, but 20 million active ones. And again, that might sound pretty busy. But give me a guess here. So how many podcasts do you think there are at the moment, everybody? How many? Thank you, Simon. I thoroughly enjoyed that chat with Lord Billy Mora. But yeah, post up. Who's got an idea? How many podcasts are there in the world? And the most up-to-date stats we have is January of this year. And I've also got the stats for January the previous year. Let me know what you think. What kind of number do you think it is? And I'll give you the figure. Edward Palin says 1 million. Simon Cox 16. Umesh 2. Simon 16. Keith 500,000. John Watkinson 25 million. Well, okay, so maybe I'm going to surprise you here. So January 2020, barely 100 days ago, maybe? I don't know. Marcus 5 mil. This is the interesting thing, guys. I'm going to share it with you now. Okay, I'm going to share it with you. So here we go. I'm going to drop this. I've confused you. There you go. 850,000 podcasts. Not even 1 million. Okay. And last year, January 2019. Got it. Taking it out. What a buffoon. He was in there last week. Okay. There were 500,000 podcasts January 2019. Fast forward to January 2020, 850,000 podcasts. That's an increase of 350,000. So that is interesting. And I've asked someone to give me these stats because it was on a news station in Australia. But they were saying how many people have made podcasts during the last month while they've been at home, looking to learn a new skill, looking to add a string to their bow when it comes to marketing. Lots of other answers there, guys. Is that all? Wow, I know. Surprising. It is. Ed, you were the closest. But yeah, look, for me, and I don't know the exact stat, and I'm sure that will come out maybe in the next week or two. I think we're close to 1 million now. I genuinely think close to 150,000 people would have made podcasts between end of January and end of April, in 90, what's that, very much April, 90 days. I really do. If you're going on the stats of last year, 350,000 in 12 months compared to 500,000 over the previous 15 years, that's huge. So look, for me, it will be 850,001 tonight. Yay, absolutely. So look, for me, this is opportunity. There is a window, and the window is closing, yes, but there is opportunity now, just like there is doing this kind of thing, live webinars. So many people have used them, so many people haven't been using them, and now everybody is familiar with the technology. And I'll go back to the other slides to show you, but this is what I want to show you today, everybody. This is the window of opportunity that exists. I was chatting to this lady in New York who's very clued up when it comes to podcasting, as a super successful podcaster, so hasn't spent a penny on Facebook ads, etc. And she's got 250,000 downloads after a couple of years for her podcast. And she was saying she believes that we're in a 10-year cycle, the same as there was with blogs back in the day, and that we are about year 4 into it. And that gave me a lot of confidence, because I was thinking along similar lines to her, because I used to do a blog regularly when I was in the health and fitness space, and I used to do it dutifully every week, and I just kept going with it and kept going with it. Whereas you could see all my competitors give up, and I'll show you the number why people give up, whether it's a pod, a blog, a vlog. There is a number that the people give up, episode number. And I got to number 1 for every single keyword that I needed to be ranked in when I had a bunch of sports injury clinics. And it's interesting because I think, go back 15 years ago, maybe everyone was told they needed a website. Then we were all told that we needed a blog on that website to talk about who we are and what we do. Then we were told that we needed social media, so we needed Facebook, and then all the other platforms came along. Then we were told we needed a YouTube channel, hence there's 1 billion active users on there. I wonder whether social media, podcasting, I think, is very close to becoming the next social media platform. And no, I don't think we need another social media platform, but it's interesting. Spotify, I'll go back and show you some slides, but so Spotify last year spent $500 million acquiring podcast companies, including buying their own platform, a platform called Anchor, ANCHOR. And they've already started branding it, and you can now send like a direct message to the host of the podcast. So it doesn't, for me, it doesn't take a great stretch of the imagination to think someone's going to come up with a technology where you are literally able to interact with the host of that podcast. And there's been chat about it from Rob Moore, who has the Disruptive Entrepreneur podcast, from Stephen Bartlett, who has the Diary of a CEO podcast. So, I know these guys. I had them both on my own show. And I think they are along similar lines. And when I was chatting to Liz in New York, I thought that was interesting. She thought we were 4 years in. I thought maybe the window was shorter, but she thinks we've still got 5-6 years before we reach, saturation point, the top of the wave, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to podcasting. And maybe that growth will, increase because of these kind of restrictions that we're going to have in place when it comes to social distancing, that we're all going to be looking for different tools, online tools, such as podcasting, such as live webinars as well. So yeah, Simon, you've used Anchor, very simple to use, and it connects to Spotify. Yeah. Rose, this is definitely the way to go. Simon, he presents a radio station and he's missing it due to COVID-19. So this will be great for me to set up my own podcast channel. 100%. You know, and we work with people again who've got YouTube channels, and we're just, you know, repurposing pulling out the audio if it's good enough, and most times it is good enough if you put it through the right software to improve it. But you can use, you know, existing YouTube channels to repurpose that as your podcast. So yeah, I think you should, Roger. I think you should, Dodge, 100%. Lots you can do. And I was watching, here's one for Roger. So I was watching the rugby show on, I think it was BT Sport the other night, and they had the presenter who was in a living room, and they had 3 guests like Martin Bayfield. Who else did they have? Trying to think now. New Leicester Tigers coach, second row, forgotten his name, gone. Someone will remind me. Not Danny Grucock, Ben Kay, that was it. And you know, this is the great leveler. They all had like their own AirPods, their own mic. You know, someone was in a bedroom, someone was in an office. The presenter was in a living room, and this is the great leveler. This is where the great leveler comes in with technology. And I just thought, you know, for what they were doing, and maybe Sarah, the presenter, they'd shipped in a better camera for her to use. But the other guys, the guests, you know, Martin Bayford, they were just on their laptops like I am now to you, or on their phones. You know, the cameras in the phone, camera in my phone is better than the camera in my MacBook now, you know, with the technology that we've got. And you can podcast, you can podcast via Zoom and post on YouTube at virtually no cost. Yeah, you can live stream in there. And I've been live streaming into my Facebook group, but I'm going to be embracing YouTube as well, because I keep giving everybody the advice, but not taking it myself. Where do we find info? I'll tell you that, Marcus. Yeah, how to set up and get going. I'll tell you about the free Facebook group I set up, which we've launched. 2 people have launched podcasts out of there. One last week, one the week before. Got more launches coming this week. People who've literally started a couple of weeks ago. It's only a tiny little Facebook group called Podpreneur. We literally started it 3 weeks ago. We've got just under 500 people now in 3 weeks. I've had 2 BBC radio stations contact me. The local magazine for the county, the local newspaper, who all wanted to feature that story of people learning a new skill. And we've got people from 10 countries now across the world, all learning to podcast and launch their own shows. And it's all for free. Like I say, I'm just showing people. We did a live on Monday. We did a live yesterday with people who've already launched their own shows. So people from someone who just launched their show like a day before, we're finding out what that process was like. Somebody launched their show a year ago, somebody 6 months ago, whether it was a series or whether it was a weekly show. Lots you can do, but, you know, just going back to the rugby show I was mentioning, you know, if that's what everyone's going to be, you know, using, and looking at the great leveler that we have with technology, and you know, yes, you can improve and tweak that, and you can get a better quality. I'm surprised they didn't send all of the other presenters better quality mics, because there are things you could do to improve things, because the Martin Bayfield sound was horrendous. He needed more cushions in his room, more duvets and pillows to absorb the sound. There's things you can do, and I guess, you know, nobody then, you know, knew. I don't know, maybe they haven't got anyone to talk to about podcasts on BT Sport, but there's lots more you could do to improve the sound. And you know, clients that we're working with, we can send them, you know, order them a good mic on Amazon, order them a good headset on Amazon, things you can do to improve the quality, both ends, from the host and the guest. So I will let you know, guys. Yeah. Zencaster is a good tool for virtual recording. Yeah. Live streaming through Instagram also works very well for me. Martina says, would you recommend a type of microphone? Yes. I've put together like a PDF. I just need to post it up, because I put it up as an article on the Facebook group, and I need to put it in a PDF so people can get it. Because, you know, you can get something like what's very popular at the moment, something called a Blue Yeti, which I just love the name more than anything else, which is a good entry-level mic for about £100. You can get, I'm going to pull it out, what I use here, which I started with. It looks a bit like the Death Star. There you go. It literally comes on a tripod. And that's called a Snowball. They've all got great names, haven't they? Snowballs, Yetis, and that was literally like 40, 50 pounds, I think. So I've got a whole variety of options that I'll share with everybody. I'll send everybody an email after this and share that with you. But, you know, you can go free. Like I say, there's an app called Rode Reporter, RODE, that you can get started with. You could then buy like a clip-on mic for £9 from Amazon, plug it into your phone. That automatically improves the quality if you're gonna, you know, keep things really low on the low. And you can go all the way up to, I just spent, you know, £600-700 on getting the best kit you can get to take on your travels with you. So moving on, guys, just want to show you. So for me, a podcast is a brand, ownable, scalable, intimate stage outside of the Facebook powerhouse. With podcasting, the audience doesn't exist in one place in the hands of just one private company. The podcast can live across multiple platforms at the same time. So what I mean by that, and I've seen this time and time again, is people build a business through a certain platform, through having a Facebook following or an Instagram following or a LinkedIn following, and then they change the rules, they change the algorithm, and you literally lose everything overnight. I saw somebody who's in my space get locked out of their own Facebook group, and that's how he was building his business, through his Facebook group, and locked out him and his girlfriend who ran the business. With podcasting, you own the content. It's your library of content. It's your legacy. It's the way I look at it. You know, I've got nearly 250 episodes now that I can keep repurposing, and people become relevant and subjects become relevant at different times. You can reintroduce those episodes. And you know, you own it, but you get to distribute your podcast across a whole bunch of platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, which is changing from iTunes, and SoundCloud, Stitcher, a whole bunch of different ones. But the main ones that you know of: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Interesting point here for me just to raise: Apple Podcasts. So new technology in cars, and yes, we know the car industry is taking a massive hit, like hospitality, like, you know, you name it, transport. But they're coming with a purple button that says Apple Podcasts. So new technology in new cars, people are going to be listening to podcasts more in their cars, simply because it's going to be available for them to literally press that button. And when, you know, the world turns again and people start commuting again, people who've started listening to podcasts during this time are going to want to listen to podcasts in their commute. So that, again, is another massive opportunity for me to package that up. If you think, and I always package this back to people that think, when you're starting a podcast, one, you want to talk about something that you are, one, passionate about, and two, you have some expertise in. And expertise, all I mean is that you are one lesson ahead of the people you're teaching. That's all I mean by expertise. I don't mean that you need an MBA, you know, letters behind your name. That's all you need. How do you find content? Okay, so yeah, come and jump in the group, Marcus. The first thing we did was an exercise in that on how to actually come up with a subject, what you actually want to talk about. But for me, you know, you want to be choosing something that you want to be talking about in 3 years' time, like I am still, entrepreneurship. You don't want to get sick of what you're talking about. Massive tip. Thank you. You are welcome. But yeah, just I need to redo the group a bit so that all of the lives I've done teaching people stuff are actually packaged as learning units, and then people can move through them. So I will move on. So those are the stats, guys. For me, podcasting gives you the opportunity to own the conversation in your digital space. So you create the content, you set the agenda, you set the narrative. And look, it was an interesting one the other day. So, you know, do your competitors, for example, have podcasts? Okay, I was talking to somebody whose business was making wills, for example. There were no podcasts in the UK when it comes to that. There were in America. But why not own that conversation? Why not start talking about showcasing stories, success stories when it comes to the people that you have in your business, the people that you work with, the people that you feature in your business, your staff, for example. You know, there's loads and loads you can do, but you can own that conversation if you're first to market. But you don't necessarily have to be first to market. There are a lot of podcasts out there that probably are in your space that aren't actually that good. Okay, they're using it as like a paint by numbers exercise. You can really go to town on this and make things super exciting. Look at what's already out there and then improve it. It's usually, the person who makes the land grab isn't, what's the phrase? The person who makes the land grab isn't the most successful, and it's the settlers that actually make the money. I'm paraphrasing that from Fran Borman, who I interviewed the other day, but that's the general gist of it. Okay. Ruth says, the editing is the only thing holding me back. The rest is in place. Well, you get something like Anchor, Ruth, the platform, and it's literally a simple way to edit it. You're moving just 2 points. You could do it on your phone. One of the live streams we had in the group was one of the guys who used it, literally doing everything on the app, dragging and dropping the music, the intro, the outro, the main interview, and then editing it by literally moving like 2 points. Where am I? 2 points like that together on his phone, squeezing them with his fingers to edit that piece. And you could do it again with a recording app that I've got on my phone. I was literally just moving 2 points on my phone to edit something out. It's just so easy. It really, really is. And there are a million, YouTube videos out there showing you how to edit. So connect with your customers in an impactful way. So what I mean by this is, with podcasting, you form a really intimate relationship with your audience. So if you think, if you're using YouTube, I saw this the other day, for example, my kids watching YouTube on the TV while scrolling through Snapchat or Instagram on their phone. I thought, what's actually going in here? What's actually being retained? Nothing. With podcasting, you're not looking at a screen unless you obviously watch it on a YouTube channel. But if you're literally commuting in the car, it's coming through the radio to you. If you're walking the dog, you've got your headphones in. It's even more of an intimate relationship. It's just that voice in your head through your earpods, your earphones, etc. Or my wife listens to podcasts while she's doing her housework. Always like asking her questions and she can't hear a word I'm saying. Probably why she does it. And I found out my audience consume my podcast while they're commuting, but with like NPE, their clients in the health and fitness space, they're probably working out. So for me, it's all about thinking, who's your ideal listener for your podcast, and what are they doing when they're going to be listening to your podcast? Where do they hang out? Do they hang out on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook? And where do they consume it? Are they in the car commuting? Are they in the gym working out? Are they walking the dog? Are they doing the housework? All those sorts of questions. And I do an exercise on this in the Facebook group when we started. Really, really interesting. Yeah, Ruth, really easy. Anchor is super easy to use. Anchor.fm. Thank you, Simon. Amplify your story. So, as I said to you, it was not my intention to get a #1 podcast in Uganda. It was not, but I clearly need to do a world tour and visit my people in Uganda. So you can literally, the reach you get from podcast is insane, as I mentioned earlier, and the engagement you get from podcast is unbelievable as well. It really is. So you can amplify your story. For me, podcasting is just another way to tell the story of your brand and what you do. Okay. It gives you an opportunity to educate them about your products and services. Okay. And you can be as subtle or as non-subtle as you want. I work with different brands in different ways with regards to this. For me, I think it's literally, when it comes to telling stories, having a conversation now with non-alcoholic brands, non-alcohol brand, biggest one in the world, about creating a podcast. And for me, they've got great stories to tell. When you're looking, where the ingredients come from, how you put those ingredients together to create a drink, different initiatives that they've got coming with different kind of VIP bar staff they're putting together, cocktail waiters. Everybody's got a story to tell. And for me, it's nurturing your audience about your products and services. Maybe you want to expose your brand to a new audience, okay? Maybe that's something that you want to do. Podcast gives you that opportunity. You can start your podcast, tell your existing audience about your podcast, but then use that to attract more of your ideal client avatar, okay? Gen Z, the most popular listening demographic, as I say, 18 to 28-year-olds. who wants a piece of that market? A lot of people do. A lot of people want that market. There's like, have I got the stat there? No. Okay, I did. It's something like 48% of Gen Z listen to podcasts, which is the most popular listening demographic. So if you're looking to attract 18 to 28-year-olds, I need a drink. I've been talking for nearly an hour. Thank you. Then, or you want to sell them something, you want to nurture that demographic, because in another, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they then become your ideal audience. Then now's a good time to start doing it. So attract new listeners, as I just mentioned, that's a great way for the podcast. Definitely why she does it, Alex, says Umesh. Yes. Turn them into customers. Like I say, play the long game. Don't play the short game. Play the long game. Turn them into customers, okay? But by nurturing them, by telling your story of your brand, whether you're a product. Post up here, let me know who's a product and who's service-based. Because like I say, I've worked with people who've got products and they're timing it in, work with, and I, like everybody out there, I've been affected by this. 2 biggest clients I was about to take on. One was a $300 million company. One was a $100 million company. Both had factories in China. Both were using a podcast to launch a new product. Both pushed it back to next year. So yes, that was a blow to me, but nothing we can't recover from as a business. But it just shows you, and maybe, I see things now in China have turned around quicker than we thought they would. So maybe that will change. But they were both looking to launch products. And for me, for them, my recommendation was to do a series of podcasts. So like 6 to 10 episodes instead of like a weekly show, and use that as every season to showcase their new range. You do a spring, a summer, an autumn, a winter. So that's something you can think about as well. David needs to dash off. I've got to dash off as well very shortly. I've got Josh White from Can of Water. Do you know the cans, aluminium cans, black and white, doing amazing things. I've got Josh to interview, so I do have to go as well. And I know, as usual, I've talked too much and I've come right to the end of the webinar. But yeah, thank you, David, Simon, Marcus. I will just whip through these guys. But yeah, real mix, a lot of service-based businesses here, mainly. Yeah, John Watkinson, B2B, as it does for B2C, 100%. It does as well. It's just for me, finding your niche again and what you want to talk about, but thinking, where does your audience hang out? What does your ideal customer look like? How old are they? Are they married? How much money do they have? Do they have kids? What car do they drive? All that kind of thing, that kind of exercise that you need to do. Why now? Well, hopefully I've used this podcast, this webinar to illustrate that for you guys, that there is a window of opportunity. Whether it's 2 years or 6 years, we don't know, obviously, but we're on a trajectory. The window is getting smaller. That's why I think now is a great time to do it. 7, and that's going to be higher because of lockdown. But that's the UK stat. 7.1 people listen to podcasts each week, equal to 1 in 8 of the total population. Love to see those stats in another month. 24% increase in 1 year, and that's doubled in the last 5 years. That just shows you, where this is going, this technology is going. And an interesting stat again is 75% of advertisers surveyed plan to increase their podcast ad spend. So they've been happy at the exposure that their brand has had on different podcasts as well. So niche of niche, as I said, these are my last thoughts to stay with you. Think niche of niche, think subcategories. And if you come into the Facebook group, which I'll post about now, I've done a whole article on what categories there are to choose for your podcast as well. Equipment, again, like I said, this wasn't the webinar to talk about that. I can give you all that information. Like I say, I can email that through to you. We're just finalizing a PDF for that. And it's a great lever at the moment, remote versus in-person interviews. We don't know when this is going to open up and we can do in-person interviews again, or even those with social distancing. We don't know. We just don't know. So it's a great leveler So if you just think of using the technology that I'm using now to literally record an interview with someone for your podcast, and don't let imposter syndrome sway you. You know, everybody deserves to be heard. Everybody deserves to have a voice. If you don't like this, like seeing me now on video, then podcasts, you know, are a great way to hide behind having a voice. You know, people don't need to see you. You can just hear you. And, you know, you can turn one weekly podcast into a month's worth of content. We do that for clients as well, right across the board, turning macro content, something like a podcast, into micro content. And that's like video snippets, audio snippets, images with phrases, audiograms, so much stuff you could do, and put them onto social media. So 7, that was the number I was going to share with you. That's where most people quit. They don't even get to 2 months, and that's the same whether it's a pod, a blog, or a vlog. Don't be one of those people. Be consistent. I'm coming up to 3 years this month in May with my podcast, Screw It, Just Do It. Be heard. Make podcasting part of your marketing strategy. Promote your business. What next? We'll start. That's the hardest thing for most people to do. And look, if you're not going to start a podcast during lockdown, you probably are never going to do so. But you are your own media. As I said, you know, having this, we've got everything we need in that for you to actually record content, share content. You literally are your own media channel when you've got a smartphone. So my group is called Podpreneur. That's a link if you want to take a photo of that or screenshot that. There's just a bit.ly reference, but it's literally as simple as going into Facebook groups and looking for Podpreneur. I'll let you in. It's a private group just to keep out the riffraff, but it's just people who are genuinely interested in learning more about podcasting. And we're doing at the moment about 3 lives a week like this, me talking to the group and helping them. So go there. Those of you who want literally everything at your fingertips right now, then I put together a podcast launch program, which is a course with its own app that you can access wherever you want, whenever you want, and on whatever device you want. You just go to avid.fm/Alex. And I'm giving everybody a 50% discount for that. If you want my course, it's a 10-week course, but like I said, you can access it wherever you want, whenever you want, etc. For those of you who want all of that information right now that you don't want to work through over the next 10 weeks through a free Facebook group. So that's me just with all of my knowledge that I've learned over the years put in one place as my library of knowledge. So thank you everybody for all your messages. Massively appreciate it. Simon, you are a legend, posting up the link for my group there. That's great. And yeah, those are the kind of services that we offer. You know, whether you are an individual entrepreneur like Jonathan Bowman Perks, or you are a 7, 8, 9-figure brand. We work with all of those, from everything from editing, production, through to content creation, etc. So I will send everyone an email. Connect with me on LinkedIn, guys. Love to have a conversation with anybody, whether it's helping you for free in the Facebook group, you know, whether it's through my course and you learning on your own, or whether it's working with me and the team to actually do everything from the music, the design, the distribution, etc. Then happy to have a conversation no matter what size business, whether you're B2B, B2C, service, product-based, etc. So as always, I've overrun. I'm a bit of an expert at that. You can connect with me there, alex@screwitjustdoit.org. Alex Chisnall at LinkedIn. So any questions you left on here, guys, I will answer them. I just won't be able to do so now as I've got to jump onto another interview. But thank you for your time. Genuinely appreciate you. This has been recorded, so if you want to go and watch it back, I'm going to go back and answer these questions afterwards later today as well, after 3 p.m. Awesome that so many of you joined from all over the country as well. Go check out Chris's competition. Scroll back up and have a look at that as well, because I'm going to get my kids to do that. Design your perfect house. So, and we'll connect with everybody on LinkedIn. Just give me a a good couple of days to get through everybody, because things are crazy busy at the moment, doing these live webinars and podcast interviews. But thank you so much. Thank you for the questions. I will answer them all. All connect with each other. This is what this platform is all about, and we can all work together. So thanks you all once again. I'm going to sign off now, and everybody have an awesome day. Stay safe. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I was Alex Chisnall, signing off.